Welcome to the award ceremony for the 401 class. Uh, Welcome. This is Debate 401 class. My name is Chuck McCarthy. I am one of the co-teachers, and this, of course, to my left, your right, is Chris Ahern. We're the co-teachers for the class. I'm going to say a little about the class, say a little bit about myself, and then I'll have Mr. Ahern say a little about himself. Good. Welcome. My name is Chuck McCarthy, as I just mentioned. I am a high school teacher in New Jersey. I'm a 21-year veteran teacher. I'm a U.S. history teacher and history teacher at Wall High School in Wall, New Jersey. This is now my 5th summer with Capital Debate. I was a camp director at multiple camps within New Jersey and in New York City. I have also been I have been with the online debate club since its conception 5 years ago, and now I am not only an instructor, I am also the director of that. This is now my 5th week of online digital camp, and that's what we've been doing so far. And what we've tried to do, and what I think we've successfully done, is tried as much as we can to transfer what we do in class as much as we can in the camps into the digital realm. And if your child is interested in this, this is exactly what Mr. Ahern and I do in the fall, winter, and spring when we do the online club. It is quite similar to that. And I just want to say it was a pleasure to be with your students for this week. So, Mr. Ahern.
Yeah. This is week 6 for me, and it certainly has been a fun, wild ride. We're always trying to adapt, and by all means, I think this has really been a successful virtual camp. And my name is Chris Ahern. Next year will be my 25th year in Clearview High School. Well, I've been teaching for 25 in September. I'm a 12th grade English teacher. I did Lincoln Douglas debate at a high school I worked for in the 90s many moons ago. I certainly do integrate it within my classroom as well. I've been with Capital. I did 2 summers at Drew, 3 camps each. And I've been with Chuck in the club debate all during the year. I just finished my 2nd year in club debate as well. I teach a couple comp classes also in a college, South Jersey College, Rowan College of South Jersey. And it's been wonderful working with your children. It's just seeing them grow. It's just been a great experience for both of us, for sure.
Chris and I have been involved in the camps in various different stages. Some of the students have been coming since 101, and now 401 is the culmination of their journey. If they have done 201 or 301, now they're in 401. 401 is specifically centered on using debate to build rhetorical as well as analytical skills on how to research and how to get things and how to vocalize it clearly. That is the goal of the camp at 401, and that is exactly what we have, I believe, accomplished. And your children have been wonderful students. They have been very receptive to all of any of the advice that myself and Mr. Ahern have given. And that is obviously a credit to yourselves because the kids did a wonderful job, and you will see that on display soon when we do the showcase today. So, want to click that there, please, Chris? There they are. There they are. All right.
Great group.
Yeah, they were a very, very, very good group. They were exceptional in their ability to adapt at such a young age, and also the skill level was impressive. I can't speak for Mr. Ahern here, but we've been doing this a while now. And when you do these types of situations, this, as you can see, there were 6 students in here, and they were all of various different age groups. We have some that are newly minted 12 years old, to some who are 15, 16 years old. So irregardless of their age level, their skill level was compatible within each other. They did not because of their talent, if you will, they did very well in presenting and researching and handling these types and handling the topics. So, credit to them. Anything you want to add, Coach?
Yeah, I think adapt was the right word. What's really rare, I think, at this age is good listening. And it's really, in my opinion, a chief ingredient to growth. And they listened. Coach McCarthy was saying to the kids that even in the same flight or the same debate, the very next debate, because we give a praise we give praise and suggest at the end of each debate, and the very next debate, the kids incorporate those changes that we suggest. So I think that's what's particularly remarkable about your children is that, for that age, holy moly, they are just very good listeners, and they take in what they hear and apply it, which is, I think, an academically mature skill.
Absolutely. And the time that we
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead. What we're doing is we were using the vehicle debate, like we've been saying throughout all of these presentations, because this is not your first, to teach them lifelong skills on research and how to express themselves and advocate for themselves positively as well as respectfully. It is the topic that has been the same, or the resolution has been the same all the way through, which is, of course, government intervention and social media does more good than harm. So the students came in with a knowledge of what they were going to research and what they were going to debate. So what this became was fine-tuning. As I've said all along, and the kids will, I try to use a lot of food analogies, and I try to use things that they'll understand. Their cakes were good. The structure of their cakes were strong. What we tried to do is change what we could to make it a better cake, if you will. Icing, piping, flowers, all of those various different things. So that was what we did. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to recognize individually all of the students that participated in the class. And also what we did was, as Mr. Ahern stated, we used debate as the vehicle. We did run a in-class tournament where the 6 students debated within the class. They averaged over a 2-day period 7 debates. Some had 8. That's a lot of debating. Each of them debated each student. The hope was to debate each student on either side of the pro or the con for the particular resolution. And there was a lot of debating. And what we did was Mr. Ahern and I gave feedback, but we did not reveal who won the debates, but we did keep track, and we did keep a tally of who won and who lost. And what we're going to do is we're going to individually recognize all students, and then we are going to reveal, because the students don't know yet, who won the class tournament. So that's the plan.
Yeah, and parents, the reason why we don't give right after the debate who won and who lost, and why we're waiting to the very end, is because we don't want to discourage the kids early on if they don't do as well as they expected in the first debate. Also, we don't want those kids that do extremely well in that first debate to feel this sense of overconfidence, so they'll just pull back and not try it as hard as they usually would.
Absolutely. So we'd like to start, if we could, with our first debater, and I'll speak first, Mr. Henry.
Sure.
Brett Hahn. Brett was with me in 301, and Mr. Ahern, she was with you in 301. And now she was 401. I said this to her yesterday, and going to say this again. Brett is very good at this. She impresses me on many levels as for a young lady, how poised she is when she is presenting and how prepared she is. She preparation and poise lead to success in this particular vehicle of debate. And Brett has this. Brett is from the West Coast. So Brett would be getting up when we were starting at, she would get up at 7 a.m. to be here, her time, to be involved in the class. She is a very prepared, a very prolific debater. And kudos to Brett. Mr. Aaron.
I'm sorry.
About Brett.
Oh, about Brett. Yes, I can assure you that I agree 100%. Brett, again, is that she also is just an excellent listener, and she takes it in very quickly, and then right away delivers what she's taken in. I think the most challenging part of debate is not at this stage the speech part of it, because the kids feel rather comfortable about that because they can control it. But the most challenging part is refutation and cross-examination. And the best word I can use to describe Brett is nimble. I mean, she is just on her feet because she listens and internalizes and is able to use it both in attack and defense and delivery in a way that I agree with Coach Chuck. That is, she's meant for this. It's good stuff.
Next. You can take Rhea and then I'll go.
Yeah, absolutely. Rhea, I always picture Rhea as a trial lawyer, having her steno pad in her hand with everything, like just overburdening her arm as she plops it down on the table and is getting ready to just go at it. Because she is super ultra prepared, and it because she exudes this confidence that she knows what she's saying and she knows her stuff. And not only that, but she not only has a plan A, but there's no doubt in my mind she has a plan B, C, D, and E already ready to go in her back pocket. So yeah.
To echo what Mr. Aaron said, I was thinking the same thing, and that's why I smiled. That I think her as a trial attorney. She has a control of the room, and she has a unique ability to be direct without being aggressive or forceful. And at a young age, that's impressive. I mean, to be able to get your point across and make sure that you to tell the judge that I disagree, and be able to do it in a way that is not off-putting, for lack of a better phrase, for the judge is unique, and that's talent, and that's kudos to you. I will go with Preston first, and then we'll go. Preston, as you can see, Preston is always smiling. He is a very good debater as well. And he is a very well prepared young man when he comes to class. I like when you get to the 401, obviously the students have an interest in this, and that is wonderful. But the other thing too about Preston is he's constantly, and I'm sure Mr. Aaron will echo this, he's constantly looking for ways to make his case better, and ways to make his presentation better, and ways to make his various different speeches better. When you say something to Preston, he will change it immediately when you give feedback. And the next time you see Preston, the changes have already been made. Sometimes within a matter of minutes than the next time. I think that he's done very well, and I see bright future for him. So Preston.
Yeah, I don't let the smile fool you though, because every time Preston gets ready to debate, he almost gets into this kind of like fighting stance, this stance like he's right in the blocks and the starter pistol's getting ready to go off. He is a hungry and ambitious debater, where he has this competitive spirit that is just awesome to watch. Couple that with intelligence and drive, and you got a makings of a really good debater, and that's what we saw in Preston, no doubt about it. Oh, skipped one. Sorry. Okay, Tatum. Tatum, I think her biggest, what I liked about her and her biggest strength was that ability to think on her feet. That I think is marks of that mature debater and someone who, again, who's fluid with the topic and exudes confidence in the way that she does it. She also, I mean, a number of times, oh, Tatum, do you need any prep? Nope. She was hot off the presses. She just wanted to go to get it out because she felt passionate about it. So yeah, I think again, just like the rest of the team, when you couple that passion and energy with hard work and determination, they really go to the task. Coach?
Yeah, to reinforce, I agree with everything you said, Coach. I definitely think the one thing I impressed with Tatum is I like her personality when she's debating. I think it's her personality. I don't think it's a personality she puts on to debate, but when she's debating, she's very it makes it look easy. It's very casual. It's very conversational. It's very comforting. Pardon me. To listen, but also when you're debating, or when she is actually on the aggressive end and she is trying to ruin your case. She's not doing it in a way that you feel that you're being attacked. She's actually very pleasant and she's very cordial when she's doing it. And when I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, that's not easy to do. And making the other person feel comfortable when you're destroying their case, which is which is a talent. So that's good, Tatum. Good job, kid.
Keep going over, clicking twice. Maybe it's slow. Go ahead, Coach.
Ah ha ha. Oh, Alice. Okay. I thought it was Alice. Alice, my 12 and a half. She's 12 and a half. Alice was in the 301 with myself and Mr. Ahern as well. Uh, Alice impresses me. I said that to her. She impresses me very much. She's only 12 and a half, but her ability to handle herself in these debates is uncanny. She has a talent and a knack for doing it. I mean, she has, because of the round robin situation. As I stated, we had some youngsters going up against some youngsters who were a little bit older. We had some sixth graders going and fifth graders going up against sophomores in some cases, soon to be sophomores or soon to be freshmen rather. And Alice held her own. I mean, she is very well prepared. She has, again, it's poise and preparation, and also she had an ownership of her case, which is extremely important with success in debating. What I mean by that is that she understood what she was saying. She made you understand what she was saying, and she was able to use her understanding of what she knew against her competitor, which is extremely impressive. So kudos to Alice.
Yeah, and I think what's most disarming, she's very disarming because she has this cheery disposition, but then during cross-ex, she'll plunge the rhetorical knife right into you. So I think that's what's so awesome about her style. She brings this energy that is just it just exudes out of her, but she also has this kind of cheerfulness that at first disarms the opponent and then she goes in for the kill. But at the same time, she has what the team has learned and gained throughout, that ability to listen, to interpret, and then use it to your advantage throughout the debate. So good stuff. Kudos, Alice. Okay, Emma. Yeah. Emma is Emma stylistically. That's what I loved about her, because in debate there's something called filler, right? Filler is when a person has the nerves and is anxiety or anxious about debating, is very nervous, and uses words like or like, or has distracting body movements as they're debating. Emma knew that everyone can succumb to this type of filler, so she was very patient in her delivery. She knew what she would want to say. She would say it, but she would be very patient in the way she delivered it, and she did not try to rush through the speech. Same thing with cross-examination. When she was being cross-examined, she would reflect, and then not only reflect about the proper answer, but the way in which to answer. We taught the kids that when a cross-examiner asks you a yes or no question, do you agree or disagree? Well, disagree. Don't give them an opening to promote their own case. And she would think even about that and then respond, which I think for her age particularly is remarkable. Remarkable. Yep. Coach?
Yes, Emma also has the ability to, what Coach says about her debater, it's again, her stylistically, it is uniquely her own, and that is wonderful. The other thing that I like about Emma is she always keeps the class light, because you never know. Like, for instance, because of the virtual realm, the other day, Emma will be sitting there, and all of a sudden we'll see a little sister pops in. I'm like, oh, there you go. So it's always something fun. She kept the class fun, and which is when you need to have someone and to keep the class fun. Emma also, she would, again, for her age, would be able to hold herself or hold her own against other debaters. Now, age is one thing, but it's just reality with that. So I think she has a bright future as well, and kudos to Emma. All right, so before we flip to the next slide, we'd like to reveal the debate, the tournament winner for the debate.
Drum roll, kids.
Just before we flip the slide, I just want to explain what happened here. It was a round robin debate, which means that all the students debated against each other at least once, mostly twice on both sides. Some debaters debated more than the same debater more than twice. It was 8 rounds over 2 days, which is an intensive amount of debating for a lot of young folk. This was kept on record. And drum roll, please.
Everybody, drum roll. Give me the bell. Ding.
Ding.
All right.
Snaps for Brett.
Come on, snaps and claps, guys.
Snaps
Brett Hahn.
Brett.
Congratulations, Brett. That's
Brett
awesome.
Congratulations to Brett. She did a wonderful job. And everything that I said earlier and everything that Mr. Ahern said earlier was the motivation, the reason why she was so successful in a room full of very successful debaters. So kudos to Brett.
Awesome, Brett.
All right, so share your voice. This is for the parents as well as the students. The parents, this is now my 5th summer with Capital, and I want to make sure I can vocalize this to you very well. We do value and we do appreciate your responses. We take the advice you give us and we change it. Meaning we change not the advice, we change what you're advising us to do. I remember when I started 5 years ago, they said to me, somebody in corporate reads every one of these. And then I found out somebody in corporate reads every one of these. All the emails are read, all your input is valued, and it will make your students' journey with us more successful, because we will alter what we can, when we can, as often as we can. Perfect example is how we are sitting right now. When COVID-19 hit, we needed to come up with some sort of a way to continue what we think is important and valuable, and this is what we came up with. And we have been taking the advice that has been done for over 6 weeks now with this, and using it not only in this particular of these camps, but we will use it in other aspects of the programs that we hold and have. So please take a moment if you would like to write that down, or if you'd like to open up another window and put that in there, please feel free to do so. And all of the campers, you can do that as well. That's for you as well. And we definitely value what you are saying. So please take a moment to do that. Thanks.
Okay, so today only, guys, coupon day. So we get $50 off next camp, and we have a lot of programs that take your child in different directions if you want to go other than debate. There's legal communication. We have business communication, again, tailor-made for the business world. Interpersonal communication, which, you know, nowadays many kids and adults communicate via text or via, you know, some sort of typed medium, and not necessarily face-to-face, or where there's other, you know, ways of communicating besides just words on a screen. STEM communication, particularly in the direction the world is going, right? We're living in a world of tech and science and technology, and to be able to communicate that, for me at least, I love science, but I'm not good at it because I'm such a big picture guy that I just love good science writers that can explain very complicated things simply. And STEM communication helps you know, explain science when someone's giving a presentation or a demonstration. Now the next, I would say, and I'm sure Coach McCarthy would agree, is that, you know, at this point they are at the end of the course of this course for these summer camps, the virtual camps. However, Coach McCarthy is the director of the club league, and I've been a part of his team for 2 years. And I'll tell you, it is particularly good for kids that don't have a strong debate team in their schools or in their area or in their district, because, you know, I mean, all of you parents know the value of this, that this is a transferable skill that goes way beyond just just a tournament, or way beyond just a debate. But to be able to persuade with words is a skill that can take your children far, and really is a skill that's a mark of good leadership. So the club debate can help fill that void, or add another avenue that your kid can engage in persuasion. Coach, do you want to say anything about the club?
Yeah, just to, I'm going to, if I may,
Sure.
before I get to the club, because they finished the 201 to the 401, the other camps, the other programs we're offering over the summer are also, they're similar, but they're different, because they're gearing specifically to some sort of a skill set, be that be legal, if they're possibly thinking about going that route, business communication, which is, it's like a Shark Tank type of situation, meaning that what would happen would be that the students would be, for a week, they would be coming up with some sort of product, and they'd have to present it, and they would have to sell it if they would. STEM, obviously, that is something that's very important, because as some of you probably know, that, you know, when you are involved in science, you may need to vocalize why your theories or why your product is important. So that is also other programs that you can use after 401 that we are offering for the summer. Club League is something that runs during the school year. It will be starting, I believe it's going to be starting in September because of COVID situation. We've been doing it. I've been doing it since inception. Mr. Ahern and I have been doing it for 2 years together. I am a big proponent of this, and I think this is something that I think you should possibly think about with your student. Is that I use it athletically, that if your child is interested in this, you may not have, as Mr. Ahern said, a vehicle to do that. Where we are going now, nationally, globally, with the unfortunate, you know, health crisis, we don't know if or when things are going to be back to school. So we've been doing this for a while, and now this is an avenue that is definitely more advantageous. You don't have to leave your home. It would be once a week at night after regular school hours. It has been traditionally Wednesday evenings. There's possibility of increasing that to other evenings. An hour, very similar to what your student did today and what they've been doing with us all week. But it's like any other skill. If your student is a musician, or if they're a swimmer, or if they are a dancer, it's a muscle memory protocol. And they will, if they enjoy this, we have an avenue for them to pursue it, but also if they enjoy it, they will have a way to exercise this enjoyment by using the club. I'm a big proponent of it, and I know Mr. Ahern is too. So if you are interested in it, please feel free to contact Corbett, and we can email at the end. Great, thanks. Oh, there you go. Yeah, if you have any questions about anything that we went over, it's at the bottom. You can team@capitoldebate.com, or feel free to call us at 800-450-5012, 5012. All right.
Okay.
Keep in touch. All right, great job. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we are going to show the fruits of the labor of your children for the week. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the showcase debates. As per, this is old hat for all of you here, the debates will be shortened by time than they would be in a normal debate round. And what we've also done is myself and Mr. Ahern, Chris, you could stop sharing the screen if you could, please.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now.
There you go. Oh, there you go. All good. Perfect. All right. You're good now. So what we'll be doing is we'll be running through these. Times have been altered, but myself and Mr. Ahern will be explaining to you what speech they'll be doing and how long they have. Your children have been given their side, either pro or con, on the resolution. They have prepared and altered their cases to fit the time constraints, and we are going to call them up one at a time. And I'd like to call our first two debaters to the room, and that would be Emma and Preston. Please turn on your cameras. Mr. Ahern, would you mind judging this one?
No, not at all, not at all. I'm going to turn my camera off. If you could too, Coach, that we could just have the kids, that'd be great. All right, guys, let's get ready to stand and deliver. Into your spots, please. Stand and deliver, Preston. Young man, please. Can you hear me? Ah, there we go. Get into your mark spot. Down to the belt buckle, guys. You have to see those hand gestures. All right. 2-minute affirmative constructive case. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
A 14-year-old girl has been continuously cyberbullied on social media. She doesn't want to live in this world anymore. She often thinks suicidal thoughts, and the only reason she doesn't commit suicide is because she knows that it won't do anything but hurt the people she loves. They say sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. That's not true. Cyberbullying is like an open wound that gets more infected and more painful until it gets unbearable. But this wound really never does heal. So, hi, my name is Emma, and I believe that government regulation of social media does more good than harm. I have one main reason why we should regulate. Regulations protect people from cyberbullying. Unless and until our society recognizes cyberbullying for what it is, the suffering of thousands of silent victims will continue. According to BullyStatistics.org, 1 in 3 children are cyberbullied. A study in Britain found that at least half of suicides among young people are related to bullying. According to studies by the Yale University, a 16-year-old boy was bullied on Facebook for only 8 hours, but the event was so traumatic that he had to be hospitalized for a month. A month. Judge, chronic cyberbullying is no joke. Regulations could prevent cyberbullying by intercepting mean posts before they reach the victim of the cyberbully. For these reasons, Judge, I urge you to vote pro.
Very good, Em. And parents, the constructive speech is doing just that, right? It's constructing her case to try to prove her position on the particular topic with evidence, but also to explain the impact to the rest of us. The affirmative goes first, and now Preston is going to present his case right now with evidence and reasons. On my mark, Preston, 2 minutes.
Isn't it crosswalks?
Oh, holy moly, my bad. 1 2-minute cross-examination. Parents, I'm getting ahead of myself here. After Emma presents her case, actually during, while Emma's presenting her case, Preston is note-taking. In some debate circles, they call it flowing, where Preston is taking down information in order to turn it around and pointed questioning. This question is meant to have Emma either admit that she's wrong or admit that Preston's position is right, or to find flaws in her evidence. 2-minute cross-examination of the affirmative constructive speech on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
So your first reason, when you talk about cyberbullying, what specifically will the government do to prevent cyberbullying?
They will intercept mean posts before they reach the victim.
And do social media platforms have the ability to do that?
Yes.
So why is government regulation necessary?
Because social media companies right now are not doing enough.
Okay. And when your example about the 16-year-old boy, how do you know that he was hospitalized for a direct reason of cyberbullying?
The doctors said it was because of the cyberbullying.
And do you have any other examples of hospitalization or health because of cyberbullying?
Yes, I gave the example in my opening about the girl who wanted to commit suicide.
Okay, thank you. And would you agree that there are other ways bullying could occur?
Yes.
So why are we concerned about cyberbullying, about solving this issue, when it could just occur in different forms, in different ways?
Because cyberbullying is a lot easier because people can send mean messages anonymously.
But why, if bullying is just going to occur in different forms, why do we need to address this problem of cyberbullying when it will just occur in different ways?
Because it's better. We can take our first step to prevent like all types of bullying by first getting rid of cyberbullying.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's all the questions I have.
Okay, very good. All right, now Preston will give his 2-minute constructive speech where he will build his case with evidence. 2 minutes on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
According to Caleb Leiteru, an author who focuses specifically on government, said that we live in a strange world in which the very governments tasked with regulating social media are simultaneously entirely dependent on those very platforms. This means that the government cannot regulate social media because the government relies on social media too much. To explain this better, government regulation on social media companies is almost like a lion watching over a mouse. the government will have way too much power and be able to control every move and action social media users take, just like a lion and a mouse. Also, the mouse has no power and is too weak to overrule the lion, just like social media companies and the government. Hello, my name is Preston Liu, and I negate the resolution, government regulation of social media does more good than harm, because the government has too much reliance on social media and the government will have too much power. My first reason is that the government has too much reliance on social media. According to Forbes, the government is very dependent on social media platforms. Candidates use social media all the time to help their campaign grow. The president uses social media as a way to communicate with the people. They have heavy reliance on social media, and it wouldn't make sense for the government to regulate itself in some ways. Congressperson after congressperson repeated how critical and key Facebook was to getting themselves elected and maintaining contact with their constituents, according to Forbes. Facebook was key to many members of the US Congress in getting elected. With this in mind, it doesn't seem smart to trust the government in regulating social media. Instead of helping the cause, they will severely hurt it and exacerbate the issue. My second reason is that we will place too much power in the government's hands. According to the Gallup, over 55% of Americans believe that the government has too much power. Allowing the government to regulate social media will put the government in a place with even more power. There are almost 3.5 billion social media users worldwide, and if the government regulates everything we hear, see, and watch, they can practically control our lives and what we believe. According to Digital Trends, social media platforms have the potential ability to regulate themselves if they put in the work. Social media platforms can do this more precisely and do it without government outreach. This just clearly shows that social media platforms themselves are capable of fixing the problem on their own, and government regulation will not be necessary and will do more harm than good. Allowing the government to regulate social media sites will be asking for disaster. They will have too much power, restrict all our rights, and control us. Judge, picture a society in which all our voices and opinions are stripped away from us. A society in which we have an oppressive government that controls our every action. A society in which all of our private information is no longer kept secret. For these reasons, I urge a calm ballot. Thank you.
Very good, Preston. All right, 2-minute cross-examination of the negative constructive speech on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Okay, so for your first reason, you said that the government relies on social media too much, but how is that an issue?
Like I said in my speech, Congressperson, after many people in the U.S. Congress use social media as a way to getting elected, and if the government is a huge part of social media, we can't trust the government to be regulating itself because they won't do a good job, and they see themselves as perfect, and they won't do anything to harm themselves.
Do you have any proof of that?
Yes, I've given reasons from Forbes. I've given reasons about the candidates using social media all the time to help their campaign grow. And I gave an example of a congressperson and president.
Thank you, I understand. But do you have any proof that the government will actually abuse their power?
Well, I am stating that with the government regulating social media, since the government relies on social media so much to getting elected and to maintaining contact with the constituents, there's no reason to put the.
So your second reason was that the government would abuse their power and it's better to self-regulate, correct?
Yes, it's also that government is we're placing too much power in the government's hands.
So you said that the social media companies can self-regulate, but do you have any evidence that they are willing to take steps to regulate?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Facebook has been moderating 99.5% of their posts before they're even posted and getting the person's eye, and Twitter is fact-checking all sources posted by the president.
Okay. I'm done.
Very good, very good. All right. So now we get into the refutation, parents, and what that essentially means is the affirmative will go first, and the affirmative will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to state the opposition's main claim and then counterclaim or refute that claim and say why that claim is false. So we're going to have, are you ready, Em, or are you ready to go? Need any prep time? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm sorry, Coach, but before we begin, could the two of you smile? My, Look at the two of you. I mean,
It's
you're so serious. I mean, all you did was smile for a week and you look like you're
game
scared.
face.
All right.
Game face,
Yeah,
coach.
game face. I'm sorry. All right, I'm out of here. Go ahead.
I like the game face. It's okay. But we like your smiles, guys. All right, here we go. 1 minute and 30 of the affirmative refutation on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Okay, so my opponent's reason is that the government relies on social media too much, but that isn't a problem. I don't get what the issue is. Yes, the government uses social media for campaigns. Yes, the president uses social media to communicate with the people, but these are not issues. The government will be regulating things like cyberbullying. Also, my opponent stated that it makes no sense for the government to regulate themselves, but they aren't going to be. They're going to regulate things that could harm others on social media. To bring it back, and his second reason is that the government will use their power will have too much power on social media and self-regulation is better. But cyberbullying rates are still climbing, so social media companies are still not doing enough. And the government has to step in if this happens. Cyberbullying is a problem that affects hundreds of millions of people, and social media sites are not doing enough to prevent it. I know that no one will regulate it completely, but cyberbullying rates are still rising at an alarming speed. So therefore, social media companies haven't done anything to slow down cyberbullying. If social medias can't regulate this, then the government must step in. Cyberbullying affects many people in negative ways, and it's not just suicide. People who have been cyberbullied have all kinds of mental illnesses, and some even engage in drugs. Judge, the government must step in to do their best to protect these people.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Okay. How we doing, Preston? We ready for refutation?
I just take like 30 seconds of prep time.
Sure. 30 seconds prep for the negative on starting now.
I think I'm ready now.
All right. Here we go. 1 minute 30 refutation of the negative on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Okay, my opponent's main and sole reason is that government regulation will protect users from cyberbullying. But like I said in CrossX, social media sites have been installing new ways to stop cyberbullying and safety, according to the conversation. The government will not need to interfere, and there is no reason for the government to regulate the social media platforms. Is this the government's job? No, the burden should be put on the social media platforms themselves. Content is always going to be dangerous and affect somebody. It is always going to offend somebody and be hurtful to someone. It isn't the government's responsibility to regulate this. Also, the impact of this contention is really small. Online cyberbullying has only affected a small minority of the population in the United States. While some people may experience cyberbullying, the government will not be able to help with this issue. Also, while I'm talking about rights being taken away from us and restricted, a small percentage of Americans experiencing cyberbullying does not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things. Also, the government won't need to interfere with this since, like I said earlier in my speech, social media platforms are already doing enough. Facebook is monitoring 99.5% of their posts before users even see those posts, and Twitter is monitoring all tweets sent out by Donald Trump, our president, and is fact-checking them. They are working on new ways to solve these problems, and it doesn't make sense for the government to interfere and mess around with their social media platforms. The government will have their own perverse interests instead of protecting the social media users and will use the social media platforms to benefit themselves. Judge, while I am talking about our rights being restricted and taken away from us and an oppressive government who is taking control of everything we do, my opponent is concerned about a small minority of Americans experiencing cyberbullying. This does not seem like a lot. And in CrossX, my opponent did agree with me that cyberbullying can happen in different ways, even if the government does regulate cyberbullying. So why should we care if bullies are just going to resort to different ways? For these reasons, I urge a con ballot. Thank you.
Very good, guys. So now we get into the closing, or the affirmative will go first, and in 1 minute frame the big picture. You know, why her reasons, evidence, and impact weigh heavier and will affect the rest of us so much more than the opposition. So 1 minute closing on my mark for the affirmative. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Judge, cyberbullying affects people more than you think it does. There are millions of people that are affected by cyberbullying. It's not just the small percent that my opponent says it is. And also, someone's rights are not as important as someone else's lives or their health. So if social media companies are still not doing enough, even though they are taking steps to improve, as my opponent says, but it's still not enough since cyberbullying rates are still going higher. And if social media companies can't regulate by themselves, then the government must help by regulating social media. My opponent actually has no proof that the government will have bias. So because of these reasons, Judge, I urge a pro ballot.
Okay. Now, Preston, as a negative, will also do the same, frame the argument in big picture language to show clash and why his argument weighs heavier than Emma's. 1 minute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Judge, while the pro side did present a strong case, it is clear that the con side has won the debate. My opponent's main impact is the safety for social media users. However, I have a much larger impact, which is the government taking away all of our rights and freedoms. This debate turns into safety for a small minority of people or democracy for all of America. And I would easily choose democracy. It's a no-brainer. The government should never be able to violate our amendments and rights, and my opponent being concerned about cyberbullying is very little. For this reason, I win in both scope and magnitude. Also, in this debate, I win in probability because my opponent has not stated in context how the government will prevent cyberbullying. Also, how will the government fix the problem with cyberbullying? Bullying will just occur in different forms, as my opponent did agree with me in cross-sects. Judge, I successfully refuted my opponent's sole reason and have shown that social media platforms are already doing a great job in monitoring and regulating themselves, with my Facebook monitoring 99.5% of the posts, and Twitter monitoring all tweets and fact-checking all tweets made by President Trump. The government doesn't need to interfere, and it will just exacerbate this issue. As I've said before, democracy is more important than safety for a small minority. Judge, think about a society in which our rights and freedoms are taken away from us, where we cannot express our opinions and feelings and thoughts without fearing the government. For this reason, I urge a con ballot. Thank you.
All right, everybody, snappy clap. Good job, guys. Good job. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good work, guys. Now yeah, snap, 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 snap.
Nice job. Good job, kiddos. You guys can turn your cameras off. Good job. All right, so next we have coming up, our next two debaters would be Tatum and Alice. Tatum and Alice, please come up. All right. So I will keep the time. I'm just going to turn my camera off. And Tatum, you are the pro, I believe, correct? Okay. All right. Time for the opening speech is 2 minutes. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Judge, imagine for a second that you're a parent trusting your child to have access to social media. But what you find out later are all the dangers that social media apps like Instagram or TikTok can possess. Such dangers can include misleading information, inappropriate content, even child predators. However, this is not a fictional scenario because every time a child opens social media, every time a child interacts with a stranger, every time a child interacts with anybody, they are in danger. Today, I'm going to talk about two main contentions. Number one, the government can filter out misinformation. And number 2, the government can filter out inappropriate content as well as child predators. Contention number 1, the government can help filter out misinformation. This is pretty self-explanatory why misinformation is a huge rising issue in today's world. Misinformation can cause people to make rash decisions based on falsities. One example of this happening is the quote-unquote discovery that water consumption kills the coronavirus. According to the PC Magazine, around 62% of adults in the United States get their news sources from social media. This is a number of victims that are vulnerable to being misled online. This is a major issue that has gone unaddressed to by social media companies, and it is a very dangerous issue that even costs lives in some cases. You could be a victim of this. My second and final contention is that the government can help filter out inappropriate content as well as combat child predators. One of the main victims of seeing inappropriate things online are children and young people, because it is an incredibly easy way for them to find something offensive online. It is also an incredibly easy way for child predators to reach out to children. According to the Guard Child, over 50,000 child predators are on social media at any given time. We cannot sacrifice the safety of minors just for the sake of the self-regulation of social media companies. Now, Judge, let's think back to that beginning scenario where you're a parent trusting your child to have access to social media and you find out about all these dangers that you didn't know about. Again, this might seem hypothetical, but this is actually a true scenario that happens every day when a child downloads and opens social media. For these reasons, Judge, to build a safer social media environment, you should vote pro.
Okay, good job. 2 minutes cross-examination starts now.
Okay, so for your first reason on filtering out disinformation, how will the government filter disinformation on social media?
Right, so this entire argument is based on a hypothetical. So there has not been a ton of evidence, but I've seen examples that it has been done in other countries, and some of those examples include fining social media companies if they're not taking down in a certain amount of time.
Can you give me an example of other countries that have filtered out disinformation?
Yeah, so one example, I think it was Australia, I think. They had to take it down in a time limit, whether it was 30 minutes or an hour, and if they didn't, they were fined a lot of money. One of the common misconceptions is that the government is taking down.
All right, so for your second reason, how will the government, again, filter out inappropriate content?
Well, I think it's kind of like the same process, like if they're going to regulate it and fine social media companies if they aren't taken down in a certain amount of time. But again, this is all hypothetical, so I can't go into the future and tell you.
Okay, so for child predators, it's how will the government again filter out child predators, because child predators are a whole different thing. So how will the government?
Again, I can't really tell you everything because this is a hypothetical argument, because we have seen like, yeah, okay.
So what can the government do that social media companies can't do?
Okay, so this question is not necessarily about what exactly can they do, but they can enforce regulations to become tighter. For instance, fining social media companies if they don't take inappropriate content down in a time limit, and many others.
So do you agree that agree that social media platforms are more knowledgeable on their own platform than the government?
Not necessarily.
Can you explain?
Yeah, so when
Okay.
Okay. All right, opponent ready?
You know, I'm not ready, so hold on. Okay, so 2 minute starts now.
Okay. How would you feel if you knew that the government could visit your private social media account whenever they want? How would you feel if you knew that the government could listen into your private phone calls and conversations and monitor your messages? How would you feel if you knew that if you had to be aware of everything you put on social media in hopes that the government doesn't censor it? Hi, my name is Alice, and I will be negating the resolution. Government regulations on social media do more good than harm for one main reason. If the government regulates social media, they will overreact and abuse their power. If the government regulates social media, they can take down information they don't politically agree with just for the power or just to protect their own image. In 2001, the Patriot Act was passed shortly after the horrible event of 9/11. Its intention was to detect and prevent terrorism, but in 2008, a report was released that the government had abused their power and collected private information without court approval. Many of these offenses had nothing to do with terrorism at all. This is why we can't trust the government. The pro side wants us to think that the government can efficiently regulate social media without using it as a personal gain, but this is wrong. According to the Pew Research Center, America's trust in the government is at an all-time low of 17%. So how can we let social media, something that takes up so much of our lives, something that has billions of users, be controlled by the government? The answer is we can't. Judge, do you really want the government breathing down your neck and monitoring everything you do? Do you really trust the government, which doesn't have the best reputation, to control social media? In conclusion, the government should not regulate social media because if the government does, they can abuse their power and will only cause more harm. So for this reason, Judge, I urge you to vote con. Now stand ready for cross-ex.
Okay, I'm setting my timer.
Okay, cross-examination starts now.
Okay, so your evidence of overreach is the Patriots Act, right?
Yeah,
Is that your only evidence?
I have more if you want.
Can you give some examples of government overreach?
Oh, so in December 2005, the government, it was found that the government had illegally wiretapped many conversations, which is basically listening.
Under the Patriots Act?
No, this is not about the Patriots Act. It's another example of government abusing their power.
Okay, well, we can just move on. So how many terrorist attacks have occurred since the Patriots Act? Do you know?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So you think social media companies are already doing a good job, right?
Yeah.
So if you think that, how do you explain the abundance of child predators and misinformation and inappropriate content? How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, social media companies are doing a lot. Like Facebook took down 99.5% of inappropriate content before
Yeah,
people
but
saw
there's
it.
still in abundance, correct? Okay, well, that's fine.
I'm not sure about that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Opponent ready?
Oh, you're done with your cross-ex?
Yeah?
Oh, okay, that's fine. I just want to introduce what we're doing next.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, so now we're doing the refutations. So this is a minute and a half, starting 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Judge, my opponent's entire argument is one contention, that the government can abuse their power and will abuse their power. However, her entire argument is based on one prime piece of evidence, the Patriots Act. She thinks that this is an example, which was nearly 20 years ago, an example of government overreach. I just want to define government overreach for you. Overreach is when the government abuses their power and does what they were not supposed to do and does not complete what they were supposed to do. Today, I want to talk about how this is not a valid point. This is not a valid example of government overreach. This is not an example of government overreach because when the Patriots Act was enacted, they did their job and they did not abuse their power. We know this because since the Patriots Act has been enacted, there has not been a single terrorist attack since then. This just shows that the government did not abuse their power. They did what they were supposed to do because the government is here for the safety of our people, Judge. Now, during the cross-ex, my opponent did not know the number of terrorist attacks. And again, I just want to reiterate that was 0. I agree with my opponent in that the government should not control every aspect of our lives. And this would be a different debate if social media companies had been doing a great job and actually been keeping their users safe and had user well-being as a top priority, but they aren't. We have seen too many examples of corruption that goes on inside social media companies. We have seen too many examples of the child predators that roam social media. We have seen too many examples of the misinformation and inappropriate content that has roamed social media. So, Judge, to keep user well-being as a priority, you should vote pro.
All right, can I have like 30 seconds of prep?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready. Opponent ready? Judge ready?
Yes, a minute 30 starts now.
Okay. My opponent's first reason is that if the government regulates social media, they can filter out disinformation. Yet she failed to explain how the government can do this and how the government can do this better than social media companies, especially since social media companies have more money and resources and are more knowledgeable on their own social media platforms than the government. And my opponent in cross-examination, my opponent failed to give any examples of other countries who actually filtered out these disinformation. And she only gave Australia, who she said that will fine people, but she never gave example of how much disinformation that Australia has removed. I also have an example in China, where the government is strictly regulating social media, where there are 6.7 million reports of disinformation that the government has not removed. So if China, with strict regulations, can't even do this, how can the U.S. government do this? My opponent's second reason is that government regulations will filter out inappropriate content and prevent child predators. But my opponent yet again failed to explain how the government will do this better than social media. My opponents mentioned that the government can fine social media companies, except that's not fair because these inappropriate content is not the social media company's fault. And that also goes directly against the CDA, which states that social media companies cannot be fined for what their users post. Which brings me to my reasons, which is that the government will abuse their power and simply will cause more harm. My opponent says that social media companies are not doing enough because there's so many inappropriate contents, but social media companies are doing a lot, and then she provide no evidence on how the government can do this better. And the government, as I said, is not even as qualified because they're not as knowledgeable in this field of technology and social media platforms, then they have less resources. So for all these reasons, Judge, I urge you to vote con.
Good job. Tatum, prep.
I'm okay.
All right. 1 minute. Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
just have 1 minute, right?
Yes, you have 1 minute of prep and you have 1 minute for your closing.
Okay. Okay. Opponent ready? My time starts now. Judge, I believe I won this debate. Let's go over my opponent's contention. Her first contention is about how the government can and will abuse her power. However, I refuted this because her example of the Patriots Act does not apply here. It's not a valid point, as I have stated in my refutation speech. My first contention is about filtering misinformation. This argument still stands because there are people dying. There are people being hurt out there because this has not been addressed by social media companies. And this is their fault because this is under social media companies. They must address this and they haven't. My second contention is about inappropriate content and child predators. Again, I must reiterate, there is still an abundance of these things. My opponent says that social media companies are doing a great job, but the evidence shows to otherwise. Social media is simply not doing a good enough job. My opponent wants you to believe that this debate is a question between safety or your rights. However, it is not. She has failed to give evidence that your freedom of speech and your First and Fourth Amendment rights will be taken away under government regulations. I have given instances, I have shown you, under Australia, Germany, even in the EU, they have done this and it has worked. My opponent gave an example of China, however, they're not a democracy. So Judge, for these reasons, for you to keep the priority, for you to keep user well-being and safety as a priority, I urge you to vote prep.
Prep, Alice?
No, I'm good.
All right.
So, opponent ready? Judge ready?
Yes, 1 minute starts now.
Okay. The pro side wants us to think that the government is guaranteed to solve all these problems she mentioned, except that's not true. My opponent still has failed to explain how the government can regulate social media better than social media companies themselves. My opponent's first reason is that the government can filter out disinformation, and she still has failed to explain how exactly will they be able to effectively do this, especially since social media companies have billions of users and billions of posts. And as I said, social media companies have more resources and they are more knowledgeable on social media platforms. So why do we need the government? Why is the government better? My opponent's second reason is that government regulations will filter out inappropriate content and detect child predators. And again, my opponent has not stated how government will do this better than social media companies themselves. She said that the government can fine social media companies, but as I said, inappropriate content and child predators isn't the social media companies' fault. They didn't create these child predators, and that also goes directly against the CDA that was made in 1996 that protects social media companies from these fines. And my reason still stands because my opponent says I don't have a valid example of how the government will abuse their power, except even though the Patriot Act did help a lot, there's so many other examples of abuses of power. So for all these reasons, Judge, I urge you to vote con.
Yes.
Awesome, girl.
Good job. Snaps. Well done, girls. Well done.
All right, next group
All right.
up. Allison Tatum, cameras off, young ladies. We're gonna bring up Bria versus Brett. Turn your camera. Oh, there we are, girls. All right, the old man's gonna turn his camera off. Okay, let's start this rodeo. Affirmative, stand in position, please.
Okay. Opponent ready? Judge ready?
Yes.
And my time starts now. As of 2020 in the US, there are over 223.03 million social media users. Regulations are needed because of the dangers on social media. Regulations are needed because it is necessary to be safe on social media. Regulations are needed because people see the government as a proper authority to regulate social media. Hello, my name is Ria Jane, and I affirm the resolution that government regulations on social media companies does more good than harm. I have two reasons why. One, government regulations will protect children from objectionable content, and two, government regulations will decrease cyberbullying. My first reason is government regulations will protect children from objectionable content. While this is not a new topic regarding social media, it is important to be aware of the content that preys on innocent minds and disrupts their thoughts. Furthermore, a 6-month study was conducted with over 1,155 public posts collected. And according to Wiley Online Library, roughly 60% of the sample posts depicted graphic content, almost half included negative self-evaluations, only 9.5% discouraged self-injury, and less than 1% included formal recovery resources. My second reason is without regulation, cyberbullying will increase. Children are subject to cyberbullying frequently because anybody can hide behind a screen and type what they want. Social media has provided a platform for many young users to become victims of cyberbullying, and in order to fix that mistake, we need to install government regulations. According to the Telegraph, cyberbullying raised the risk of self-harm or suicidal behavior 2.3 times, and 95% of teens on social media have experienced cyberbullying, and 64% of those teens admitted that it had a negative impact on their lives. In conclusion, rules are only enforced when it is necessary, not before, in order to prevent these unfortunate situations. Something that the government can bring to the table when it comes to objectionable content and cyberbullying are enforceable codes of conduct and large fines for misconduct. As these are the leaders of the future, we need to make sure that we try our best to give them a brighter and better future. Protecting children and keeping social media safe is a top priority, and the way I see it, government regulations are the only way to do so. Thank you, and I strongly urge your pro ballot.
All right. 2-minute cross-examination of the affirmative constructive speech. 3, 2, 1, go.
Do you believe that government regulations should be instated to prevent minors from viewing sexually explicit materials, as you stated in your first reason?
Yes, to prevent them from viewing objectionable content.
Yes. Okay. Do you understand that the CDA was actually instated to prevent this from happening? A government.
Yeah, the Communications Decency Act? Yes, I do.
Okay. When you say this is not a new topic, what do you infer?
No, what I was saying, well, it's like, because everybody knows that there's objectionable content in social media. So I was just simply stating that this is not a new topic regarding social media.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any evidence saying that government regulations of social media companies are able to regulate better? And since this is hypothetical, do you have any historical evidence or evidence from other countries?
That government regulations will decrease all of my...
No, that they'll do better than social media companies.
Well, I have evidence from other countries that installed government regulations and the consequences for those. And while this is a purely hypothetical situation, I do have an example on the Patriot Act and how it was installed and what help it did bring.
Okay, thank you very much. How can we say that government regulations of social media companies can solve this issue regarding cyberbullying when we've seen failed regulations such as the CDA?
Well, the CDA wasn't necessarily failed, but also that I don't know what year that was installed, but also the government has improved and has become more modernized. And so I do believe that government regulations will regulate content on social media better, as social media companies have proved ineffective.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you think social media companies are doing a good job of regulating terrorist propaganda right now?
No, I don't. That's
You
what
don't?
I'm saying, that that social media companies are not doing a good enough job of regulating all of the content on social media platforms.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, 2-minute negative constructive speech. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Researchers from the Polaris Project tell us that energetic cooperation by platforms to remove content has produced results and it has likely forestalled government efforts to impose legal mandates. Today, I will be talking on how federal regulations impact the independent industry of social media through self-governance and the prevention of terrorist propaganda, and how this all in all inevitably causes more harm than good. My first reason, self-governance. YouTube releases a transparency report which gives its data on removals of inappropriate content. The video sharing site owned by Google said that 8.8 million videos were taken down between July and September of 2019, with 93% of them that were automatically taken down by machines, and 2/3 of those clips didn't even receive a single view. It almost removed 3.3 million channels and 517 million comments. Globally, YouTube employs 10,000 employees in monitoring and removing content, as well as policy development. Facebook, which owns Instagram, told Reality Check it had more than 35,000 people around the world working on safety and security, and it also releases statistics on its content removals between July and September of 2019. It took action on 30.3 million pieces of content, and it found most of the content 98.4% of before users flagged it. My second reason, terrorist propaganda. Writers from the Bipartisan Policy Center tell us that during a visit to Washington in November 2017, UK Home Secretary Amber Rudd acknowledged significant progress, noting that companies were now taking down roughly 2/3 of violent terrorist material within 2 hours of its discovery, and that ISIS was now struggling to put materials online. Research suggests that after suspension, returning accounts failed to gain the same level of traction they once enjoyed, and the number of English language tweets by ISIS sympathizers has fallen by 50%. In order to securely protect the privacy rights and safety of social media users, we must recognize the harm and foreseeable harm of government regulations of social media companies. I have shown the independent self-governance of social media companies and the way through social media regulations, terrorist propaganda has been solely prevented. Thus, I urge a con ballot.
2-minute cross-examination of the negative constructive speech.
Okay, opponent ready?
Yep.
Judge ready?
Yes.
And my time will start now. For your first reason, aren't all the problems circulating social media under platform self-regulation?
Wait, could you restate the question? I'm not really.
So all the problems that I talked about in my case are still circulating social media. So aren't all of these problems under the platform self-governance?
Well, when we're talking about objectionable content, that is not upon the social media companies. That's the lack of effectiveness from the CDA, and it's showing actually in my case how.
All right, moving on to my second question. Don't you think that more people see the government as a proper authority to regulate content on platforms?
Whether or not the users find the government, social media companies effective or not, it's about the results that social media companies have proven and shown time and time again, and that the government has.
And moving on to my third question. What makes you think that the government won't be able to take down all the terrorist propaganda that social media companies have not been able to?
Well, actually, if the government were to take down terrorist propaganda, it would violate our First Amendment. For the First Amendment says that, I believe it says that you can say whatever you want regarding harms to the government or something like that. But actually, if you want me to state it.
That's okay. I know what the First Amendment. Okay,
yeah.
And on to my fourth question. Haven't government regulations worked in the past? Take the Patriot Act, for example.
Well, any sort of violation to our Constitution should be significant. And we've seen the Patriot Act violate our Fourth Amendment. But also when we're talking about government regulations and their effectiveness, you present in your case in your first reason how the CDA is ineffective.
And moving on to my final question, did you know that even Mark Zuckerberg said that government regulations were inevitable?
Well, whether or not he says that, Facebook has instated secure and private and reassuring regulations that the government hasn't done. So I'm kind of confused, but yeah.
All right. Now we move into affirmative refutation. 1 minute 30.
Okay, I think I'm ready. So am I, opponent ready? Judge ready?
Sure.
And my time will start now. My opponent's first reason was self-governance. However, the social media platforms cannot regulate their content. This is proven because all the problems that we see circulating today are under the platform's rule and not under the government's. It is clear that there has been no change for the best under social media platform regulations, and since more people see the government as the proper authority to regulate content, change will happen. We need to be focusing on the fact that all the problems that we see circulating in social media today have not been under the government's regulations, rather the social media platforms themselves. I am not saying that government regulations will be perfect, but I am saying that they are as close to perfection as we can get. My opponent's second reason was terrorist propaganda. In her case, she said that platforms were able to take down 2/3 of violent terrorist material, but doesn't it go to show that the government could take down the rest? Additionally, many platforms like Twitter, for example, said that they would never censor terrorists. If government regulations can put an end to cyberbullying and the spread of objectionable content which can hurt and kill many, don't we owe it to ourselves to do it? We need to, by starting to make a brighter and better future for our coming generations, we must put an end to the cruelty and hatred that is spread on social media platforms. Overall, government regulations will help as shown in the past. Take the Patriot Act, for example. It was a government regulation which was able to tear down a wall between law enforcement and intelligence personnel, which prevented important information in order to identify and stop terrorist attacks from happening. Thank you, and I strongly urge pro ballot.
All right, awesome. Okay, 1 minute 30, negative refutation on my mark. 3, 2, 1, go.
Regarding my opponent's first reason on objectionable content, I would just like to point out that Congress actually enacted the CDA in response because they wanted to prevent minors from gaining access to sexually explicit materials on the internet. And this also applies to social media. In her first reason, she is clearly pointing out how government regulations of social media companies, such as the CDA and Section 230, are ineffective. Regarding my opponent's second reason regarding cyberbullying, social media platforms have actually stepped up to the plate where the government has not. And as my opponent stated in cross-examination, yes, this problem has been here for a long time. And from the 1996 regulation, we haven't seen the government step in at all. But since then, we've seen social media companies protecting their users where the government has not. And regarding my opponent's first reason, once again, in cross-examination, she agreed that there should be more regulations and that the CDA isn't doing a good job. This just shows that my opponent agrees with me that government regulations are ineffective and they're slow. It's been 24 years since that act was instated, and we haven't seen the government step in at all to help their American users. Regarding terrorism and how she thinks that they can take it down, the US government can't regulate terrorism on social media because it violates the First Amendment of the Constitution. The study published by the Bipartisan Policy Center explains the US Supreme Court has consistently held that speech that offends, insults, or foments hatred is protected speech under the First Amendment. I urge a calm ballot.
Okay. All right, here we go. We move into defense where both sides frame the big picture and clash. Do you want some prep time, Marie? It looked like you.
30 seconds.
30 seconds prep, certainly. Starting now. Time. Okay, 1 minute.
Opponent ready? Judge ready?
Yes.
And my time will start now. My opponent's first attack was that Congress enacted the CDA, which failed. The CDA was installed in 1996, 24 years ago. Social media and the world has come a long way since. Improved and modernized government regulations will help, as I proved in my case. I also was not able to catch my opponent's second attack. The government has not been able to step in because of people who believe that that government regulations would be in violation of our constitutional rights. While many good points have been made today, it still remains that government regulations will do more good than harm. The country as we know it has evolved into a more modern society, and we need government regulations in order to make sure that social media is safer and better for the community. The world is evolving, the country is evolving, and our regulations need to evolve as well. If even the CEO of Facebook is saying that government regulations are inevitable, doesn't it go to show that they will one day be put in place? Why not do it now rather than later? Later meaning putting the lives of every single social media user at risk. Judge, vote for pro because we ensure that with government regulations in place, we will be able to provide a brighter and better future for coming generations. If you don't, you are ignoring the children whose lives have been ruined by cyberbullying and objectionable content. If it comes down to safety versus freedom, we will always choose safety. Thank you, and I strongly urge your pro ballot.
All right. Okay. The negative 1 minute closing speech.
I think I'm ready.
All righty. 1 minute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Regarding my opponent's first reason, I tell you how the CDA was enacted to prevent this specific issue that my opponent brings up is still present today. Regarding my opponent's second reason on cyberbullying, I tell you in my first and second reason how social media platforms and companies have stepped up to the plate where the government has not. Exactly as my opponent states, it has been 24 years since the 1996 Act was put in place, and the government hasn't done anything since with the evolution of social media where these companies have stepped in. My opponent says we needed regulations in order to keep the mindset of these users, and we just need to have regulations to keep the minds of these children towards the right direction. I agree with her, but my opponent gives us no evidence on how the government can do better than social media companies, for they have shown that failed regulations such as the CDA, where I have shown you in my case that social media companies have the ability to do it. And if we give them time, the space, and the money to do so, they can do it way better than the failed attempts of government regulations of social media companies. Something we need to identify in my opponent's case is that these issues are problematic, but she shows us no evidence that the government regulations can help this. Social media companies have stepped up to the plate where the government can't and haven't. Our freedom, privacy, security, and so on lie in the hands of social media companies, and they're the only ones that we can trust. Thus, I urge a con ballot.
All right, round of applause for the ladies, snaps and claps. And then I want you ladies to stand up, and I want, if you don't mind, Coach, I want all the kids, just the kids, to put their cameras on. Just the kids. All 6 of you guys, cameras on. I have something to say about all 6, and I know Coach Chuck does. I want the parents now to stand up in your virtual place and give a round of applause for the future leaders of our country, guys. And I'll be honest with you, that makes me very hopeful. You guys are awesome, and it was really just a great, a pleasurable experience that we moved together as a team, and I hope our journey doesn't end. All right, guys, so.
And one more, yeah.
It was wonderful. Coach?
It was, yeah. And one more thing, I want all of you on 3 to say thank you to your parents. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right, because you wouldn't be here if they didn't have you in here. So good job. Let's turn our cameras on real quick, Coach. So great job, everybody here. It was a pleasure working with your child for the week. We hope to see them and hopefully in club debate when the school year starts. And if they're interested in any of the other programs, please feel free to reach out to corporate, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Take care.
Enjoy
Enjoy
your
the rest
weekend,
of your day. And we'll hope to see you soon.
Take
Be
care,
safe.
everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
You
You're
guys.
welcome.
Very
Thank you
welcome,
so
guys.
You're welcome.
We miss you
You're
guys.
welcome,
Take
kiddo.